pretty good. How about you guys? Good.
Congratulations on the win. Having said all that, the first half, you guys got off to a slow start, obviously. Didn't run the ball probably the way you'd like to. Just what did you learn from that first game against the Falcons?
Yeah, it definitely did not start how we intended. It was good to see the resiliency of being able to put together some drives in the second quarter, and then especially the way we finished it. But that's what it is. If you want to start fast, you want to put the pressure on them from the jump. It's not the start we envisioned, but just seeing everybody come together, what's not hidden, what's hidden, how can we adjust that, whether it's in the second quarter or at halftime, to go out there and try to put some drives together and score points.
You've done it in the preseason, obviously, but just the logistics, just the flow and the meter of calling a game, how much does it help to now have done that a full game and be able to build on what you have?
For sure. It's huge because you just get more reps at it. Hope to get better with it every week, and just using those preseason games to be able to do that was treating those games, I know it's a preseason, but at least personally looking at that like it's the first game of the season. That way everything is as serious as it needs to be, trying to get the guys in the right spots to get them the ball and just keep adding to that.
Sorry, go ahead. What does it say about the group to be able to come in the clutch in crunch time, getting that go-ahead touchdown at the end?
It was huge. We worked those situations so much out here, especially in training camp versus our own defense. And then just the belief in that we're all connected. We know what plays we're going to get to. We know what we're trying to attack. We have the belief the O-line is going to hold up in protection. We need protection fixes from the back to be able to hold up, to be able to ultimately get first downs, and right there to be able to get points to win the game, which was huge and great to see. And everybody was just calm. We've done this a bunch of times. Let's put together some completions, get on the ball, and go from there.
Talking about that game-winning touchdown, just talk about Emeka Egbuka calling a shot. What happened? There was conversations with you and Baker on the sideline, I guess, going back to that play. What does that say about him as a rookie to come in and be like, hey, this is me?
Yeah, it was cool for everybody to see it on game day, being live on what he can do and what he brings to the team. But to your point, the conversations that we had, it was really the third time that we had ran that play. We had an unfortunate incompletion to Cade on one of them, and then Mike caught one of them, and rightfully so. Understand that Bates was going to try to play him because it's Mike Evans, and I think that's one of the best examples when people say, oh, Mike Evans dictates coverage. Mike Evans dictates coverage. So on that one, you're able to see, hey, I got this shot at this play if we get back to it. And then fortunately for the streak of the way the game was going, we were able to get back to it at that point as a huddle call, and just unbelievable job in protection, getting it to him on time, and just unbelievable route and catch.
Josh, this is hindsight is 20/20 to some degree, but you started the game with three guys in different positions on the offensive line, and I know it was kind of born out of like what's our emergency, package here.
Yep.
If you'd have had that and repped it, would you have been further ahead, you think, than they are now, as far as like just kind of learning on the fly, and you expect that if you have to play that way to get better every week, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things for the week of game planning. You're really only getting those reps at whatever runs or protections we're getting that week, and then like this week will be different on what we're running. So it's really such a game plan thing that those guys were able to get enough reps on the ones we had up versus Atlanta to be able to go out there and execute it.
For that conversation, you guys chose the more complicated, the more challenging option there. I just want to ask you what it says about the confidence in the coaching of the players to be able to execute under more difficult circumstances.
For sure. It was not a decision that we took lightly, and it was something that we had to talk about. And it ultimately came down to players and the belief that both of those guys, to include Mike playing guard, had done it before. They had the reps at it, and then they owned it, where they knew that was putting us in the best position to win the game, and they owned it from there on the reps we needed to have to feel comfortable about it. And the conversations those guys have in the locker room and on the side for watching tape together and being on the same page was really cool.
To that point, what does it say maybe about keeping the confidence up of the player and a guy like Charlie Heck, who now potentially you might need to rely on him at right tackle if Luke can't go? How do you kind of have that conversation and keep his confidence up for when situations where he has to go start potentially?
Yeah,
feels like he's
and we still have confidence in Charlie. It's a lot like a receiver or a running back where they might not get the ball and you try to get them the ball more. I know it's different because you don't really rotate those guys, but we still have confidence in him, as well as to the point of guys not getting it when that comes up as well, where, okay, hey, we missed you on this route, but just don't fall asleep. We're going to come back to you later.
Looking at this matchup on Monday, what type of challenge does the Texans defense present?
It's a big challenge. It's really good unit. You see it from all really three levels of the defense, starting with the D-line, and those edge rushers, very good. They just play so hard. They're so well coached from Coach Ryans. You can see that stick out on tape all the way back to his time with the 49ers. Very similar scheme, but starting up front, you see what those guys can do as pass rushers and in the run game. And then from the stack linebacker positions with Azeez really running the show in there as the middle backer, does a great job, as well as having Petrie. He's a safety on paper, but he plays a lot of nickel for him. He's very physical, likes to mix it up in the run game. And then once you get to the perimeter of the defense, those guys are really good in Stingley. And then last year on the outside with both the safeties, we have a little bit of history with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from last year in Philly. So really all three levels is a stout unit. They play hard, very fundamentally sound.
I want to ask about the screen game. It came out a little bit late against Atlanta, but you had that one to Rashad that let it broke, if not for a shoestring tackle there. How are you feeling about the usage from week one and maybe going forward? Because I know it was a really big part of what you guys did last year.
For sure. It's something we look at each week as we game plan on, is it the best concept for that week? Can we get to it that week? And it's really on a week-to-week basis. You might see more one week, less one week. Really just dictates on what the defense does.
You talk about Baker's ball placement on the touchdown, obviously, both touchdowns, but really just elite small window throws. The ball placement was just perfect when it needed to be, even though there was a little bit rust coming in the first quarter. What have you seen from last year to this year for him to make some of these elite throws that maybe wasn't necessarily as often on film last year?
Yeah, I think that's what you get out of being in the second year in the system, where his footwork on that, even though that was an explosive play, I think that was on the 25 or 30-yard line where we threw it from, he essentially had a quick game timing on the play where he threw it to Mike, where he's taking a very slight drop. Does Mike get the ball? Okay, Bates is nailing down, and all it takes is a quick hitch from him to be able to get it up to a Mecca. So having that recall and working it really from, I guess, the spring of last year through now has that in-game reaction where in the critical moment, he's on it with his footwork and he can get the ball out to an explosive play, and it's not like he's taking a 7-step drop. So that's what you would hope for in a second year.
What can you say about Baker's style of leadership and how that manifested, how it showed up in a game like Sunday, under pressure, but just guts through it?
Yeah. It felt like Atlanta had the ball for like 30 minutes down there in the end zone. So we had enough time to talk about what we were going to do. There's a couple of different scenarios that were going to come up based on what happened down there. So he's just so calm on the sideline. No matter what happens here, we're going to get this thing back and we're going to go score. And then his communication on, this is what I want to get to in the 2-minute calls. Okay, these are the best ones. What he's feeling. How do we get it to Mike? How do we get it to Mech? And those guys know once we get up there and get on the line of scrimmage, he's commanded that thing even in a hostile environment, and that's what you get out of the guy.
NFL every day, you're trying to get better, trying to learn. Self-scouting from week one. What did you think you did really well? What's something that you want to work on going forward in the season?
Yeah, really starting fast, trying to get easier completions. That way we can get the guys going. We had a couple we missed early to Mike on some of the targets, either shorter ones or down the field, but anytime that he can get the ball and get the thing rolling, puts pressure on the defense, which opens up the run game as well.
Baker was critical that way. He said that he probably turned down some throws that were there in the flat. Is that the kind of thing you want him to get into a rhythm a little quicker? Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, if it's not there, we're trying to push the ball on the field. We had a couple of those play-action shots called that missed Mike over the middle. He missed them on their sideline as well. But if it's not there, even though those were open, if you can check it down, make them rally to it, then once you get that coverage to tighten up a little bit, then you can throw it over their head from that point.
This offense has been very successful on third down going back to last year. Obviously, talented players have a lot to do with that. How much of it is, for a play caller, is it a cat and mouse game with the defense, and how much of it is just these are our players, this is what we do, this is what we're going to run?
It's definitely a cat and mouse game once you get into it, in terms of we're expecting certain things in certain windows, how we break up third down. It could be 3rd and 2 to 3, or it could be 3rd and 10 plus, where you're expecting certain coverages. And then once you get into the game, you get a feel for what we're expecting. Is that happening, or are they giving us something different? And that's where the adjustments come from. But for what the work that these guys are able to put in the protection plan, as well as being able to change plays at the line of scrimmage, can get us into advantageous looks to try to take advantage of that. And because they put the work in on that, we feel like we can put pressure on the defense to not always be in a perfect call that might wire or hit you on a blitz.
Coach Bull said that you were at your calmest, and maybe Baker is too, in the 2-minute situation at the end of the game, that maybe it's because you know the look you're going to get, whatever. But what was the nerves to start the game? What was your personal sort of challenges that you had for that game?
Yeah, going into it, just the first crack at it is a little different than preseason, of course, and especially being on the road and starting with it. And it was going to be big no matter what, but now we got Atlanta being in the same division. But once it gets going, you settle in, it still turns into a game, a lot like people talk about, where the lead up to it, there's definitely some nerves. But I think for the players, coaches, I mean, whether you're calling the plays or going to a game last year, there's always nerves. I think you should be nervous because you put the work in, you want to go execute. But definitely settles down, and then at the end, we got to be calm. I got to be calm, because if they see that we're out of our minds, then they're probably going to be out of their minds, and it's not going to go well.
Across the league, Josh, there were only 16 interceptions thrown this week. It's actually the fewest in NFL history for a week one. I'm just curious why you thought they're down in general, and why you think there's less, why defenses are doing that.
I don't know. I hope for us it continues. I'm not sure from around the league as much, but I have no idea. As long as we can stay on that side of it, we're in a good spot.
One drive where you used all three of your backs. Is that something you'd like to do going forward, to just kind of be able to rotate? Obviously, you guys didn't have a lot of success running the ball, but if you did, is that something you would have went back to in the game? Is that something you want to go with forward, and just having, even if it's one drive, all three of these guys and giving you different looks, and having defenses have to be like, okay, they're going to use these guys.
Yeah.
We need to prepare for all three of them.
I think sustaining drives and getting those connections on the early passes, opening up the run game, and then when you sustain drives and say it's 10, 11 plays, ultimately those guys are going to get gassed, and the next guy comes in, and then he has the juice, and hopefully you're still pushing the ball down the field to get the next one in there. But each of those guys definitely have a role. Try to get it to them and improve on that this week.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.